hello there, and welcome back to the True Crusade Stories podcast with your girl, Coach Mo, your favorite family finance coach, coming to you live and direct from my studio. Okay, listen, today we have a treat in store for you, kings and queens, and I think you're really going to love it. We all know that what this month is, right? Let me give you a hint. Okay, so we know it's February, right? Yes, it's February, but it's not just any other February. It's Black History Month. Yay! Yes. It's Black History Month, and we are so honored to remember the strides and progress that Black people have made over the years. And for the rest of this month, we are going to specifically be talking about Black finance. And I can tell you, as a fellow Black woman in finance, we've come a mighty long way. Okay. And so we are not where we're going, but we are most definitely on our way. So would you agree that more Black families need the opportunity to win financially? I would agree. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. And before I dive into our topic for today, I want to welcome all of our first time guests to the show. If you're hearing this podcast for the first time, we are so glad that you stopped by. We hope that you find the topics and stories that we share weekly are relevant, are inspirational, and most definitely noteworthy. Okay. So get your pen, get your paper. All right. Because we're going in on a topic today, and I'm so excited to share it with you all. So our goal on True Crusade Stories is to share history, examples, and testimonies of people whose financial lives have been impacted due to the work of a crusader. We believe that you shall know the truth and the truth shall make you free. And that is why we titled this podcast True Crusade Stories. TRU is short for True Resilience Unit. Resilience in its simplest form means having the ability to bounce back. We want to continue helping more people recover from their financial blunders and information insecurities by empowering them with the tools, the information, and simplistic, customized strategy at zero cost. All right, so hang around and we'll talk to you about how you can take advantage of that. All right, and so now that we've gotten the formalities out of the way, let's jump right in. So if you know how we do on this channel and on this podcast, you know that we're all about facts. Okay. We want to hear the facts. We don't want to just sit on here and talk and give our opinion or even our professional opinion, but we want to speak facts and figures. Is that okay? I want to read a couple of snippets from information that was posted on the website for the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, which is an organization that was founded by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who is the founder of Black History Month. How about that? And so, how many people knew how Black History Month got started? Okay, how many people knew, where it began? And so there are some articles and downloads that you can read on the website. And so by the way, if you haven't picked up by now, you know that this man and this organization, they are a group of crusaders, okay? And so here's a snippet from the website. It says Woodson chose February for reasons of tradition and reform. It is commonly said that Woodson selected February to encompass the births of two great Americans who played a prominent role in shaping Black history. So we're talking about none other than Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, whose birthdays are in February. Most importantly, he chose them for reasons of tradition. Since Lincoln's assassination in 1865, the Black community, along with other Republicans, have been celebrating the fallen president's birthday. And since the late 1890s, Black communities across the country have been celebrating Douglas's birthday. So well aware of the pre-existing celebrations, Woodson built Negro History Week, around traditional days of commemorating the Black past. He was asked he was asking the public to extend their study of Black history, not to create a new tradition. In doing so, he increased his chances for success anyway. Okay. And so I want to take you down the history line on how this got started, and then we're going to dive into our topic. So hang out with me for a moment. And so in around 1915, so let's say it's September 9th, 1950, 1915 is when Woodson, along with a few other people, formed the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. Okay. So this is recognition for what the African American people were doing. Okay. Advances in technology, changing, breaking records, whatever that looks like. He and his team were wanting to talk about that for an entire week. So in 1916 was when Dr. Woodson published the Journal of Negro History. Okay, so that was about a year later. In 1924, he, along with his fraternity brothers, took up the work of creating a Negro History and Literature Week, which they renamed Negro Achievement Week. Okay? So around 1937 was when the first Negro History Bulletin was published. And so I'm reading now. So in 1937, at the urging of Mary McLeod Bethune, that name sounds familiar, doesn't it? Woodson established the Negro History Bulletin, which focused on the annual theme. As Black populations grew, mayors issued Negro History Week proclamations, and in cities like Syracuse, progressive whites joined Negro History Week with National Brotherhood Week. Okay? Fast forward to 1976. So in 1976, 50 years after the first celebration. So remember, it started with one man and his team to get started on just having a week of recognition for the Black woman and Black man. And so here it is in 1976, 50 years after the first celebration, the association used its influence to institutionalize the shifts from a week to a month and from Negro history to Black history. And so since the mid 1970s, every American president, Democrat and Republican, has issued proclamations endorsing the association's annual theme. Okay? And so that was 55 years in the making. And here we are officially about 50 years post celebration of our annual month. We are embarking on that milestone in history. So that isn't that amazing how things can start with one person that has an idea, one person that is a trailblazer who decides that something needs to be changed, improved, or made better. Okay. I love it. That's the true nature of a crusade. And so let's get to our topic for today. And our topic for today, because we are focusing on Black finance for the month of February, our topic is going to be on the debt crisis in the Black community. Now, if you Googled what race has the most debt, if you put that into your search engine, what you're going to find is that the answer is Black families. And so I want to talk a little bit about this debt crisis and how we arrive at this point today. And so in my research, because I truly believe in research, I found lots of different articles on credible websites, and you can do the same, right? And so for this one, it's going to be from the Census website, and it talks a little bit about statistics. And you guys know we're all about those facts. So let me go ahead and read this for you. And so a householder is a person who owns or rents a housing unit and whose name appears on the deed or lease. And so in this article, white is used to describe a non-Hispanic white householder, Black householders can be either Hispanic or non-Hispanic. Okay. In 2021, the households with a white householder made up 65.3% of all U.S. households and held 80% of all wealth. Those with a black householder made up 13.6% of all U.S. households, but held only 4.7% of all wealth. And their median wealth, $24,520, was about 1/10 of the median wealth of households with a white householder, which was about $250,400. Okay. And so the reason why I wanted to bring that into it is because what I'm going to be talking about next is unsecured debt holdings that differ by race or householder. Okay. And so let's talk about unsecured debts for a moment. Unsecured debts, such as student loan debts, have no assets backing them. Okay. And so that's why someone can go to school, get that good education, have $100,000 in debt, but there is no assets backing that student loan. So the government couldn't just come in and repossess the education. That's not an asset. It's an asset, but it's not a tangible asset, which is where wealth comes from. All right. And so if the individual fails to pay that student loan, it's a little bit different. If they had, for example, a car. So if they had a car, the lender can come in and repossess that car. So unsecured debt can promote or hinder wealth accumulation for obvious reasons that we just discussed. For example, student loans can provide individual access to higher education, which is positively associated with wealth, but debt burdens can impede the individual's ability to invest in wealth building assets. So, in other words, if I'm using all of my money to pay off my debt, how can I also invest money to become financially independent? Households with a black householder, and we talked about what a black householder is, were more likely than those with a white householder to have unsecured debt. So that's 61.3% versus 53.4%, especially student loans and medical debt. There were no statistically significant differences in the median amount of medical, student loan, and credit card debt, but households with a white householder had more other unsecured debt than those of the black householder. All right, and that's median amount 6,000 versus about 3,500. While these median amounts are not statistically different from one another, they are just one measure of debt burden. It's also necessary to consider measures like resources available to pay down loans and the length debts are held to better gauge the impact of unsecured debt on the long-term financial security of black borrowers and on the racial wealth gap. So let's talk a little bit about this debt issue, okay? Hopefully you follow all of that. I trust that you did. So people and businesses typically get into debt for lots of different reasons, okay? They want to buy something that they don't have enough money to obtain today, or they have a desire to leverage other people's money, which is a whole different conversation. This can be for a car. This can be for a home. This can be for Christmas, right? This can be for paying bills on a credit card because I don't have the cash to pay my bill. This can be for a number of things. The list goes on. And so back in the day, we already know that layaway existed. If you know, you know. Okay. Layaway existed. And so people had the opportunity to make a small down payment, maybe even 10% of the whole purchase plus a layaway fee to pay off those purchases over time. Every 2 weeks, we go in, we make that payment on our layaway, right? And most stores, unfortunately, have done away with layaway or they've only allotted it for times during the holidays. What we're seeing is the influx of organizations and stores wanting you to utilize credit. And so I'm going to tell you guys my personal story right here, and then we're going to get back to it. I remember the first time, one of the first times that I was ever able to get my own credit card, right? And I'll never forget, every time you go to the store, different retail stores, they'll ask you at the counter, do you want to apply for a credit card? Because if you do, you'll get 10% off your purchase today, whether you're approved or not. How many people were like me and said, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can qualify for it, but you already knew you weren't going to qualify? You were just trying to get that 10% off, right, with your purchase today. But unfortunately, it's that type of thinking and those type of actions that have kept people back and oppressed when it comes to debt. So not thinking about the whole entire picture, thinking about a moment, but not thinking about the impact on my life, right, and my longevity over the course of years. And so what does it take for me to apply for a credit card today? One, if I'm not approved, or even if I am approved, I'm going to have a ding on my credit that's going to be there as an inquiry for at least 2 years. And so if you were one of those type of people who said, listen, I don't care about that. I just want I just want to take advantage of the savings now. So you may have saved $10 that day, but how much more interest did you have to pay over the years because your credit took a ding? See, these are the type of things that we need to be thinking about when we're thinking about getting into debt, right? And getting in debt with an organization whom now we owe for years. Let me get back to this article, okay? Let me get back to what we're talking about. Well, we're past the article, but let's kind of get back to what we're talking about, all right? And so now we have companies that have emerged to help us purchase anything that we need today. And we don't have to wait, right? We don't have to wait to get it in the future. These companies will literally send it to us. Free shipping. No problem. Digital delivery. We can get plane tickets. We can get pots if we need to on the website. We can go and get a comforter if we want to. We can go and buy a wig if we want to, and we can do it on credit that we don't even have. We're going to get that through a third party company. If you know, you know, right? And so one of the ways that people have tried to solve the debt issue is by filing bankruptcy. And so I don't know how many people out there can attest with this, but you may be at a place where you feel like, man, I have so much debt that I just need to go ahead and file bankruptcy. But you need to know the facts before you go. And my recommendation is that you don't just go and try to file bankruptcy, because that's going to come at a cost, isn't it? It's not free to play. Okay. And there are some things that I want to lay on you today so that you know that it is not an actual right that you are guaranteed to be able to file bankruptcy. Okay. And so there are so many different strategies that can be implemented before we get to that place. But I understand that people will still go and file bankruptcy for many different reasons. And so I want to read a little bit from an article on the MIT Management Sloan School. And the title of it is this: Black bankruptcy filers more likely to be denied debt relief. This article was published by Betsy Verke in July of 2024. And this is why it matters. Okay. And I'm reading from the article. To close the racial gap in consumer bankruptcy outcomes, matching minority trustees with minority filers can help, research finds. Personal bankruptcy is designed to give insolvent Americans a fresh start. But new research shows that Black filers are more likely to have their cases dismissed without getting any debt relief. The people that need a fresh financial start are really distressed. And yet it seems that bankruptcy is not working that well for some groups, especially for Black Americans. Okay, so this is straight from the article. Palmer and his co-authors of the working paper explaining racial disparities in personal bankruptcy outcomes examined data on more than 13 million U.S. bankruptcy cases from 2010 to 2022. So please know that this is not just hearsay. There's research behind this. The most recent update to the research shows that Black filers were 31% more likely to have their Chapter 13 bankruptcy case dismissed in court than non-Black filers. Okay? Being dismissed in court, meaning that you got no help. So in digging deeper, the researchers discovered that the role of the court-appointed trustee was significantly important in determining which Chapter 13 cases were dismissed without providing debt relief. So I want you guys to lock in on these couple of points here. Black filers are more likely than filers from every other race to have bankruptcy cases dismissed without any debt relief in both Chapter 7 and 13, even when controlling for many non-race characteristics. For Black filers in Chapter 13 cases, dismissal rates are 7 percentage points higher when they are randomly assigned to a white trustee than when assigned to a non-white trustee. So how many people know there's still racism that exists in our laws today? Won't get into it, right? Won't get into it on this platform. White trustees are stricter with Black filers than they are with white filers in terms of what they consider allowable expenses, which leads to higher required payments to creditors for Black filers and higher payment plan rate failures. Oh my goodness. So let's talk about this for a little bit. So it's needless to say that bankruptcy is not a viable option for everyone. It is not equal opportunity. And there should most definitely be other options prior to filing bankruptcy or before bankruptcy is even needed. Bankruptcy is not free, as we talked about, and it is an added expense to a person who is already suffering from the lack of money, from the lack of resources, from the lack of information, from the lack of guidance, from the lack of strategy on how do I prevent this from happening again. Because how many of you or how many people do you know that filed bankruptcy not once, not twice, right? They filed several times. So some of those options, and let's get into some of these options here, could include budgeting. Budgeting. So I say this all the time, budgeting is not a four-letter word. This is not a word that is used to restrict, but this is a sacrifice, right? This is a knowing of what's coming in my home and what's going out and what actually needs to be going out. What needs to be eliminated and what needs to be increased. Knowing where your money is going is everything, okay? Getting a finance coach to assist with these and or a financial advisor. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, when you hear the word advisor, typically you need to know that there is a fee to have a conversation. There is a fee to get that game plan going. And for people who don't have money already, how is it possible for me to pay 2,000 or 3,000 on a plan that I don't even know is going to work for me? And so that leaves out most people, doesn't it? So here is another thing, cutting down on unnecessary spending. Simply not buying today what you can't pay for with your next check. So we are so used to in this society instant gratification, but I want to challenge us to think outside the box. Think about what you're building. We need to think about where we're headed because as black people, we are not where we're going, but we're on our way. But what way is that? Because it's only 1% of the population in the country that's considered wealthy. Only 1%. And it is impossible for the person who is to become wealthy by spending all of your money. Would you guys agree? So I want to take a step back, and we're going to be closing in just a few minutes, but I want to share my own personal crusade story on debt. Listen, you guys, when I realized I had an issue with debt accumulation, we were about 194,000 in the hole. Okay. And this did not include our home. And so student loan debt was a major part. So listen, I am the woman in the story in these examples. 194,000 in the hole, 106,000 of that student loan debt. They can't come and repossess the education, right? And so 106,000 in the hole, and student loan debt was a number one thing, but we also had credit card debt, car notes, you name it, we had it. We got it. And right, not my husband, but I didn't want to get the help because I was embarrassed. So here I am, super duper educated, okay, getting all A's and a B, just excelling in education. How is it that I didn't know how to do better with my money? And I know there are people out there who are saying, listen, I have a problem, but I can't trust anybody with my problem. I need confidentiality, but what I don't want to hear is someone sharing my story, okay, without my permission. What I don't want to hear is people gossiping about me or talking about me or making me feel bad about where I am. And so a coach, right, a finance coach, which is who I am, a finance coach is someone who is supposed to be your advocate. This is a person that should be your crusader who wants to see your situation improved, who wants to see your quality of life better, who is your cheerleader, not your person that's going to give you judgment, right? Not the person who's going to condemn you for what you've done, but having an understanding according to knowledge that just because you're here today doesn't mean in 6 months you're going to be in the same place. I tell my clients that all the time. Okay. So at the end of the day, I thought I had it going on. Okay. And when I say that, I don't say that in a conceited way, but I thought I had it going on. I thought I was doing the right things. You know, I was one to pray. I was one to fast. I would write things down, keeping track of things, but yet and still missing the mark on some major milestones. And so with this situation in hand, I had to humble myself and submit to the fact that I needed help. I needed a confidant. I needed someone to confide in concerning my money. And so I was prideful. I was arrogant, even thinking I would have time to fix it. But the reality was, until I saw on paper what I was doing and how I was mishandling the resources that God gave me, I was completely blind to the fact. Not using coupon, not even trying to save a dollar, just spending money hand over fist, making good money, and yet living check to check. Okay? And so following a game plan, I will have to tell you it absolutely changed my life forever. And I'm going to tell you guys, seeing is seeing and knowing is knowing. When we know better, we can say that we will do better, but doing better sometimes comes with an accountability partner. someone who can see a little bit further down the road, someone who can encourage you and say, you know, where you are right now is not where you're going to be in 6 months. You need the help of a crusader, right? Someone who wants to see your family win, who doesn't want to do you harm, but only wants to see you go to your best place. Is that you on today? So listen, that concludes our episode. I really enjoyed sharing this information today, and I hope that you enjoyed listening. I pray that this inspired you to do something amazing. It is 2025. And for the first time ever, you can have that financial game plan, that roadmap, that financial GPS to show you where you're going. Okay? And so I pray that you all have an amazing remainder of your day. Remember that we'll be back next Friday with another crusade story. And if you need help, I want you to contact me personally at my email. And so my email address is coachmo@trueresilience.net. And you can schedule a Zoom meeting with me to discuss your story and how we can help you. Again, that is Coach Mo, CoachMo at truresilience.net. Be safe, and we'll talk to you soon.